All right, lovely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started here today. So welcome to She TV, the place to become powerfully feminine from the inside out. And today I'm talking about what I perceive as, a fundamentally important topic with regard to feminine power and energy, which is that feminine sexuality is different to masculine sexuality. So before we proceed, I want to encourage you in above and in the comments below to take my feminine archetypes quiz. What that's going to show you is what your dominant archetype is right now. And then I send you a whole bunch of other training and information about all of the 4 feminine archetypes in emails. And then I'm also going to send you the feminine archetypes blueprint. And I want you to have all of those things for free, just so that you can get a sense of where you're at and where you need to be going in terms of your feminine power. Awesome. So what I'm going to do today is debunk a few myths around feminine sexuality. We're also going to talk about the feminine sexual arc. And then we're going to talk about how to embrace every second of the sexual experience. So one of the core things you probably know about me in watching how I teach about feminine power and energy is the masculine feminine polarity is, let's say this again. Masculine and feminine are forces inside all of us, whether you're a man or a woman. The women who tend to be attracted to my work and want to work with me are women that have become a bit overly masculinized or stuck in what I call man mode, and who actually want to learn and embrace their feminine side, okay? So these forces are inside you, masculine and feminine forces. They are also in men. It's just that the women here are wanting to move from being masculine dominant to feminine dominant. Now, what that means is, one thing that distinguishes how I work with women a little bit is that I do not tap dance around or not discuss or pretend that we don't have a pussy, a vagina, and that we're not sexual beings. In fact, I wholeheartedly embrace that as a key and core to your feminine power and energy. So there are a lot of myths out there that women have fallen into consciously or unconsciously, that sex and sexuality is a male or masculine dominant or dominated thing, concept, and even event. That sex is more masculine than feminine, that men want sex more than women do. Calling total, utter bullshit on this. This is totally incorrect information. Now, yes, we know that this has been bandied around by the media, and somehow we've perceived this to be true, and yet it is not. And I'm going to tell you the myth of Tiresias in order to illustrate my point. So in the Greek myths, Tiresias was a man, and he interrupted the coitus, the sex of 2 serpents. And Hera, the great goddess Hera, saw this, and she decided to punish Tiresias from doing this by turning him into a woman for 10 years. So his punishment for interrupting coitus of these two snakes was to become a woman for 10 years. At the end of the 10 years, he was released from his punishment to become a woman and became a man again. And then what happened is there is an argument between Hera and Zeus, basically about who enjoys sex more, the man or the woman. Now, Tiresias had now returned to being a man. And so they invited Tiresias into the court and said, well, Tiresias, as a person that has both experienced sexuality from the man's perspective and the masculine perspective, and from a female and feminine perspective, what is your response to this? We can't resolve this argument. And what Tiresias' response was, if sexuality were 10 parts, were given 10 parts, 9 parts are for the woman and just 1 for the man. Now, the beauty of mythology and legend is it was created to illustrate powerful principles and concepts. Now, this powerful principle and concept lets us know that sexuality is actually the arena of the feminine. Sexuality is all about plugging into life force, into energy, into our power source, which is experienced through the sexual energy, through the sexual experience, but also outside of the sexual experience. This is so core and fundamental to feminine power that I can't overstate it enough. Now, for some of you out there, you may have been told or you may have experienced yourself as being what is called anorgasmic. Now, what that means is it's a medical term that says that you can't orgasm or that you have a lot of difficulty orgasming. Now, I have known thousands of women who have overcome this label of being anorgasmic, and I'm going to give you some tips as to how to do that today, okay? So the next thing I want to talk to you about is what is called the Feminine Sexual Arc. Feminine Sexual Arc. Again, this is not making masculine sexuality better or worse than feminine sexuality. It's just that I want to talk to you about feminine sexuality and how it's different to masculine sexuality. So here goes. The masculine sexual arc or sexual direction sort of starts down here, and then it ascends and it goes and it goes and it goes up, 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 until climax and orgasm, ejaculation, and then there's a rapid falling off. That is a general description of masculine sexual direction, okay? It starts here and it warms up and heats up fast and goes in a direction toward climax and then falls off, okay? Feminine sexuality, however, what I call the feminine sexual arc, okay? This is really juicy and important. The feminine sexual arc, by its name, is curvy. Everything about the feminine is curvy, actually. Okay, so the feminine sexual arc, they talk about it in Taoism as we start as the cold water in the pot on the stove, and then we apply heat to it, and then it brings itself up to a boil, okay? Experientially, what it feels like in us is a movement that looks more like this. We go up and we have peaks, and then we go down, okay? And there's a sensation fall off, and then we come back up and we have a peak, a sensation fall off, okay? And it doesn't necessarily go in a rhythm like this, but we have this experience of peaks and troughs and peaks and troughs. Now, what's happening at a peak is a heightened level of arousal, okay? There's an arousal. It's either happening clitorally, or it's happening with inside of the vagina, or it can happen with nipples for a woman, or it can happen in other parts of our body, okay? There's arousal, there's sensation that's heightened at the peak. And then there's a seeming fall off of sensation. Now, this is really important. Don't feel like there is something wrong with you or wrong with your partner when there is a falling off of sensation. What's actually happening for a woman when there is a trough? I call it she's going down and she is mining for gems. She's going down deep, deep, deep in her body, deep in her pussy, deep inside her sexuality, in order that she can bring up something even richer, even more intense, even more juicy. And then she comes back up again to another peak in which she's brought up some of these gems into the sexual experience. And this can go on and on and on for hours for women, okay? So the feminine sexual arc is, I want you to understand that this falling off of sensation is an important part of the motion of your sexuality. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing you need to do. Your partner isn't screwing up. You're not screwing up. This is totally normal. Now, when we look at this motion, okay, let's say that it goes like this, and then we can even go, it's kind of like goes up and up, or it can go down deeper and up higher. And then there can be orgasmic climax. And that can either be, one big climax and a falling off, or as can happen for women that get accustomed to this rolling motion of their sexual experience, they can orgasm and what's called multiple orgasm, continue the waves. So there's been a big blasting open of some description, and the waves can continue and continue and continue. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk to you about this today is the masculine has a lot to do with directionality and goal orientation. It's in the masculine's nature to do that. It's not bad or wrong. However, if we become goal oriented in sexuality as a woman, for example, that the goal is orgasm, then you're losing your feminine sexual experience. Now, as your arousal gets more and more heightened, you may start to feel something that wants the orgasm, but I want to implore in you to drop all and any goal orientation in your sexual experience. I want to implore that you stay in this moment by moment, ecstasy by ecstasy, stroke by stroke experience. Be in the pleasure in every single moment, even when there's the fall off or the trough. Just be present with yourself and your body. Be present with your partner and his or her stimulation of you, engagement of you. Stay present and drop the goal orientation. This will, in and of itself, transform your sexual experience. If nothing else you do, try this experience. All right, I want to check in with you and see if you have any questions, my dears. Delia, hello. She says, hi, Candice, love you. Where can we attend your workshops? Oh, great expression. So look, Delia, jump on and do the Feminine Archetypes quiz, my dear, and then you'll end up on my list, okay? And I will be having a Powerfully Feminine live workshop happening at the end of this year. And I have them a couple of times a year. And I also have online trainings. So the best way to stay in communication with me is do the quiz, get on my list, and then I will be informing you of what's coming up next. The other thing you might like to do is jump onto my free Facebook group called Smart Savvy Sexy. So you can just search for Smart Savvy Sexy or put in my name, and I can also put a link above and in the description box below. So you can join us there. I'll be telling you about workshops then. All right, so let me see if you have any more questions. Okay. There's always a delay on these things, so let's grab some tea. All right, I won't stay on too long here today because what I want to happen is I want you to go and do homework on what I've passed you here today. I want you to ask me questions below in the comments box, and if you are willing to share your experience with other women. This is such an important knowledge that has to get passed. These three things that I did today, which was debunk the myths about feminine sexuality through the Tiresias and Hera myth, and that the sexual experience is actually more about the feminine than the masculine. Now, that might just blow your mind at this point, but it is. It is our domain. It is one of the core sovereign domains of the Queen, and the feminine is that of sexuality and the sexual space. I today spoke to you about the Feminine Sexual Arc as how it's different from masculine sexuality. And I also spoke to you about how to embrace every single second of the sexual experience. So my dears, remember that when you have the courage to go out there and shine, you give others permission to do the same. So let's all go out there and shine this week. Sending much, much love from me to you, and bye-bye for now.